Our 2024-25 season previews will continue on today with the Vegas Golden Knights. So, Vegas, they go from winning a cup in 2022-23 to losing in the first round, to losing a lot of the big-name guys they had, and now there's a lot of people that aren't terribly high on them. However, I'm not really one of those people. I might speak a little bit lower about some of the things on this team, but I know that they can get stuff done. They absolutely can. So I want to start off in 21-22, where I guess their journey to the cup was like, this is the season that kind of like, made them change their mentality. In 21-22, they went 43-31-8 for 94 points. They were 17th in the NHL that year. They would end up missing the playoffs because of a lot of injuries, and, obviously they made a lot of trades during that year. Like, Jack Eichel was brought in during that season, too. So, people actually kind of forget that a little bit. But, yeah, he was brought in during that year, and then the following year they end up firing, I think, Pete DeBoer, and they bring in Bruce Cassidy as the brand new coach, and they go on an absolute tear. They were one of the most dominant teams in the playoffs that year. They won the Stanley Cup. In the regular season, they had a 51-22-9 record for 111 points. They were 5th in the NHL. They were your Stanley Cup champions that year. I don't really need to say much else because they were that good. They simply were. They were a really good team. I think there was a stat where, like, they weren't losing in any of their series at all. Like, they were never losing. They may have, like, had, like, a tied series at one point, but they were always winning a series, unless if it was tied. But, again, I digress. They were really good. The following year, they lose some players, and then they end up finishing way lower than they were. They go 45-29-8 for 98 points. They were 14th in the NHL that past year. And obviously, they make it in. They trade for Tomas Hertl, the trade deadline, which, did that surprise you? Didn't surprise me. And they end up losing in 7 games. A very close 7 games to the Dallas Stars. People might forget that. It was a very close series that some people may remember. They came really close to beating them, but obviously Dallas edged them out in Game 7. And after that, they ended up losing a lot. I gotta be honest, a lot. You look at your departures list, you got Jonathan Marchessault, Chandler Stevenson, Alec Martinez, Anthony Mantha, Michael Amadio. I think that's Alex Carrier, and then Paul Cotter was your other loss as well. So again, like, Marchessault and Stevenson, you lose your captain, one of your best, or not your captain, you lose probably your best player in franchise history. Again, Marchessault probably should have been the captain, but Mark Stone's there. So, again, I digress. Stevenson was your number 1 center or number 2 center, depending on how you want to look at it. He was solid. So, those are 2 big losses to their top 6. You lose Alec Martinez, which is a loss to your top 4 on your blue line. So, you lose some pretty big assets there. And then you lose Mantha, who was a deadline acquisition, Amadio, who was like a 4th liner. You lose guys like Carrier and Cotter, who were also like depth players as well. So it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that it goes that way, but sometimes that's how it is in hockey, where you lose a lot of players. There's a few teams that we covered this offseason where they did do that, and unfortunately, it's how it goes sometimes. Now, your arrivals, I want to put a little bit of an asterisk. These graphics were made before Zach Aston Reese was claimed off of waivers from Vegas to the Blue Jackets, so you may see him in this and in the projected lineup graphic as well. But you got Victor Olofsson, Alex Holtz, Ilya Samsonov, and Akira Schmid are your ads. So, Olofsson and Holtz, 2 X factors, 2 big X factors there. Now, I think they brought in Olofsson because they saw what he did with Jack Eichel when Jack Eichel was with the Sabres, and they think that maybe put him on a line with Eichel and maybe they can have some chemistry and recreate that exact thing. Maybe that'll be a smart move for them. We'll see what happens there with that. Holtz was a first-round pick who just never panned out in New Jersey. Hopefully there's a good chance that he might be able to do so with Vegas, but obviously that's something that time will tell. Will he get enough ice time to really pan himself out? Will he be surrounded with the right line mates? Those are a lot of questions, to be honest with you. And then you obviously get guys in Samsonov and Schmid. I think Samsonov's going to be your backup goalie. Schmid will be your third string, so nothing really too big there besides, obviously, Samsonov being your backup. But yeah, those are the guys you brought in and the guys you lost. Look at the projected lineup now. This is per the Hockey News, not per me, so don't come at me. You start off with your top 6. Ivan Barbashev, Jack Eichel, Mark Stone is your first line. Then you have Pavel Dorofeyev, Tomas Hertl, and Victor Olofsson as your second line. So that's a pretty good top 6. I like that top 6 a lot. I think it's definitely worse than it's been in previous years. Again, the left wing side is weak. The center depth you're going to see is really good. Like, you have 4 really good centers down the middle. It's your wingers that do have some concerns. Now, I like Stone if he's healthy. I like him there. Again, Olofsson, a big X factor. Can he pan out playing on the same team as Eichel as he did in Buffalo? That's another question that we got to ask ourselves. Dorofeyev, I think, could have a pretty good breakout season. He's one of those guys who I think is going to get top 6 time, of course, as he is on the graphic. And I think that that's really going to benefit him, and he's going to have a really good season for sure. So I'm looking forward to that. You look at your bottom 6 then. You have Brett Howden, William Karlsson, and Alexander Holtz is your third line. Then you have Mason Morelli, Nicholas Waugh, and Keegan Colasar as your fourth line. Then for some extra depth, you have Ronsberg and Brendan Brisson. Pat Brisson's the agent. Or I think it's Bryson, not Brisson. Bryson. So, again, Zach Aston Reese is in there. Just ignore him. I like the bottom 6. It's not as strong as it's been in other years. I think Colasar is a good fourth liner. Same with Nicholas Waugh. I like Howden. Holtz, we'll see how he does. And then Karlsson's a good third-line center. But again, the winger depth isn't great. Again, as I said, like, I like it, but it's a lot of what-ifs throughout the winger depth on this team. And I have no idea how Morelli's going to pan out. Not going to lie to you. So we'll see what happens there. I'm not that optimistic about the bottom 6. I know I said that I like it, and I think that it can pan out, but I don't really know. Like that, it's a lot of what ifs. You look at your blue line. Your blue line's still pretty good. Again, as I said, you lose Martinez, but it's still pretty good. Your top pairing: Shea Theodore and Alex Pietrangelo. Second pairing: Noah Hannafin and Nicholas Hague. Sorry. Brendan McNabb and Zach Whitecloud is your third pairing. Then Caden Korczak as your extra defenseman. So that's a good blue line. I think the top 4 is good. I mean, again, you bring in Anna Hannafin, sign him on a long-term contract. I think that's a pretty good top 4. Nothing really changes there besides losing Martinez. So, again, that's one of their biggest strengths is their blue line still. And you look at your goaltending, you have Adin Hill and Ilya Samsonov. I like Hill. Not terribly high on Samsonov, though. Again, as a backup in Toronto, or as a backup here, but as the starter for some point in Toronto, I wasn't that high on him. I don't think he was that solid. Hopefully, though, maybe he can rejuvenate his career behind a really good blue line with the Golden Knights. But obviously, we're going to see what happens there with him. But yeah, I like the top 6. The bottom 6, we'll see how it goes. I like the blue line, and I am all right with the goaltending. So it's still a solid team. It's still a good team. I think that McCrimmon has done a solid job with what he's dealt with. Again, you can say what you want about, the Marchessault situation, how that maybe wasn't handled that well. Obviously, you can say that, and then with Stevenson as well. I think Cassidy's a good coach too. We saw how good he can be. So hopefully they will be able to get back into the playoffs this coming year and maybe go on yet again another run, try and get a second Stanley Cup in the last 3 seasons. Not a lot of teams can do that, so I would give them huge props for that, but obviously we'll see if they're going to be able to do that. So let's take a look at the Hockey News' fantasy guide and see what they got in store for the Vegas Golden Knights. They actually have the Golden Knights second in the Pacific Division, which is a pretty interesting pick there for sure. And their biggest X factor facing them right now is a first-round exit for the reigning Stanley Cup champions was an unexpected and harsh blow. That followed by an unpopular teardown of the roster and seemingly never-ending health issues with Captain Stone leaves a big question. Will the coming season be a stunning turnaround to glory or the start of a downward trend? That's a really good excerpt there from the Hockey News. I think that, yeah, this is a big year for them. I think that it's going to be interesting to see what they're going to be able to do with this roster. Does the losses from some of those players, is it really going to affect them in the long term? I don't know if I believe that necessarily. I think that eventually, you have to move on from players. But, of course, it's a disappointing situation, and maybe this is where we see them start kind of taking a downward trend a little bit, because obviously they won their Stanley Cup. But this team has a history of a lot of injuries. If that does catch up to them again, I think there's actually a pretty good chance that they might not break into the playoffs. But again, because they're in the Pacific, you don't really know. Obviously, things can change, and they could obviously break in, of course. But anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below on the Vegas Golden Knights. They are a very interesting team heading into this season. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe down below. I really appreciate it. We are getting closer to 3,000 subscribers. And anyways, that's it for me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.